Welcome back to the Excellence in Customer Engagement podcast, where we spotlight servant leaders who embody a deep commitment to serving others. Today's guest is a gentleman whose work impacts one of the most basic human needs. His story begins long before clean water ever became a mission. I am joined by Mark Miller, also known as Dr. H₂O, founder of Safer Cleaner Water and UA Legacy Grants. Growing up as the son of a pastor and public speaking since the age of 4, Mark's heart for service was formed early in life. Dr. H₂O's journey is about family, faith, and a calling to care in practical ways that protect health, dignity, and life itself. Together, let's welcome Mr. Mark Miller. Welcome, Mark. I'm beyond grateful for your time today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Happy to be here, Christine.
Thank you, Mark. I understand you've been public speaking since you were 4 years old. That's not something most of us can say. Tell us about that. What was little Mark speaking about then?
Well, that is interesting what happened. And I was born in a family. My dad was a minister, and my family, I have 10 siblings. I was the middle child, and one Sunday afternoon, I went up to my dad and said, "Daddy, I'm supposed to preach tonight." And he hesitated, but finally he said, "Okay." So we got to church, and he said, "We're going to have something different tonight. Mark's going to preach." He put a chair behind the pulpit. I climbed up on the chair, and I preached for 19 minutes on the 10 Commandments.
Oh my goodness.
When I got done, my dad said, "Well, I was going to preach after this, but I think this was what was supposed to happen tonight."
What's incredible about this, Mark, is that you were connected to your inner guidance at the early age of 4.
So, with that said, that being my background, then my early years were very involved. My dad was not only pastor, but helped with the funding of 11 children overall. He did some other things as far as work, carpenter work, and other things. So I had a hammer in my hand or anything that needed to be in my hand to help as a very young child, and that did not hurt me in any way. That's something that gives you discipline and understanding and prepares you for the future. So I was happy for that and have enjoyed a lot of different things and a lot of stories I could tell over time. But from the time of 4 years of age to 74 years of age as we're visiting today, there's lots of things happen. And very, very interesting how things that you don't know that you need for the future just come to you. And if you're open and listening, a lot of times what you didn't realize you needed when you look back and you say, "I needed that." That prepared me for the next step.
Was there anything in your teenage years that hinted at the path that you would eventually take?
That's a real good question, Christine. And the answer is yes. When I was 16 years old when I graduated from high school. I went to a private school and was able to graduate in 3 years instead of 4. And at the age of 16, I had a real strong impression that something in my life, someday in my life, there would be something that I would do that would have a very positive effect upon a large number of people. As a 16-year-old kid, I didn't understand what that meant, but it was so strong of an impression that I never got away from it. It was just like, this is something you need to keep in mind. So a lot of times I would look at something and say, "Okay, I need to do this. I need to start this business. I need to do this. I need to master this. I need to learn this because I'm going to need that for that thing, whatever that is in my future," not knowing what it was and when it would be. So was a major effect on my life. And looking back, each of those stair steps that I took to get me to where we are today was a very important step.
As it typically is. Can you tell us about your college experience influence and about your role in the world and your perspective at that time?
Yes, when I was 11 days after I turned 17, I moved to a little town right 3 miles below a new college, a private college that was just going to open that year. And all I had when I moved away from home, 11 days after I turned 17, was $100 and a bicycle. So I went to that small town and I found me an apartment. And the first day of school, I rode my bicycle to college and was the first one to enter that college of any student that ever entered that college. So, and being there in the college, I have a music background. I, I've sung for quite a while, ever since I was young. And one of the things that we did there, we was part of a quartet and started a quartet, and I sang in that. And then we traveled some with that for the college. And then as far as also um, what is now my wife, Vicky, came to that college the first year and a half. And what I say is, when she got her MRS degree, she dropped out, and I continued and graduated in 4 years.
Oh, well, you've built a beautiful family of your own, and I would love to hear about your wife and how long you've been married and your children, if you don't mind sharing, and the role your family plays in your mission.
Thank you. Well, yes, and just a little bit more about in college. Whenever we wanted to get married on April 4th, on our spring break in the college, and a lot of colleges won't let you do that. And then, but they said that was fine with them. There was no issue, and they was happy to do that, and was okay for us to do that. In other words, so that was 55 years
Oh my goodness.
ago. It'll be 56 years ago on April 4th this year,
Wow.
and 55 years, all of them happy.
Yay. Well, isn't that's so lovely. Hmm. That's so lovely to hear, especially around Valentine's season.
Yes, you remind me. Yeah, and the other thing, as the other family part of the story, we have 5 children, 10 grandchildren,
My goodness.
9 great grandchildren,
Oh my,
and another one on the way.
oh my goodness. You deserve a standing ovation, Mark, just for
There
that
you
part
go.
of your life.
Oh, that's funny.
That is so awesome. So I know there was a turning point at some point. Can you take us to that moment when cleaner water went from a good idea to becoming your life's focus?
Yes, and it will take a couple, 3 steps previous to that to get to that turning point. But where it started, of course, was in college. I thought there would be things otherwise, and I have had many different things through the years that I did, as I mentioned, those stair steps. Pastored a church for 2 years in Orlando, and pastored another church in Tennessee for 7 years. Was on the board of directors of a nonprofit entity for 33 years, and had other things that I did as far as for financing and things to do as well. And but it was always still on top of my mind of what is that thing, and I never got away from that thought, like I mentioned. But there's something that triggered it. It was something that happened only about 3 years ago to the trigger to make us where we are now. But previous to that, with the time in college, and with the time of with COVID and different things that happened the last few years, when I was 20 years of age, Christine, I had a very I I went to a place that had a lot of activities with quartets and um, on TV, etc. And I thought, this is something that cost a lot of money. I wonder how they did that. And what I found out is they had a number that pastor of that church, and some of the others had a large number of non for-profit entities that was able to help the financing and the necessity of doing the nonprofit. And I never forgot about that. But one of the things that was interesting also on that journey to come to what you just asked, actually the trigger that really started everything in a major way, in 2020, it was May 15th, 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday afternoon. And I was on the phone with somebody and I just felt a very strong impression. Again, you're supposed to go create your nonprofit right now.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I said to the person, I need to go. And I went to the computer. I typed in the information and got down to 20 some choices. What is this for? What's the purpose? None of them fit. I wanted to make it as broad as possible. I typed something in on other and it would not it would kick it out. But the third time I typed in grants for debt relief. I wanted to just make it where it was so broad we could do whatever we felt like to do to help others, bottom line. So that was 2:30 in the afternoon. Sometimes it takes days or weeks or months to actually get those certificates and the process to start. But 4:30 the same afternoon, Christine, I walked back into my office and my form for my nonprofit entity was already on the screen.
Oh my goodness. Well, if that isn't a sign right there.
Right, right. So then what really brought us to where we are now, that part, that trigger that you mentioned, or that thing that I refer to as a trigger, is almost exactly 3 years ago from right now. I was in a church about 20 minutes away from here. We were going to that church at that time, and there was a missionary from Central America came for a missionary service to share what they're doing with their missionary project. But one of the things he said is one of the first things he said. He said the number one reason why children die in these foreign countries is because of lack of pure water, impure water. And he said what we do is we have a system that's a very simple system we can take in and show them how to have water, good water, pure water for the children and for them. And now the children are not dying as frequent and not that challenged like normal. And also the adults are a bit better physically as well. And then we also then would share with them about the spiritual things and the water of life and those things we had for the purpose of them from the spiritual perspective. I listened very well, Christine, but sometimes you have your mind going just as fast.
Yes.
So that's what happened in that situation. The first thing that came to my mind that really started the journey is as I listened to that, I said, there's 300 plus million people in the United States. And if there was ever a situation, and there is off and on anyway at different times, but if there was a massive challenge with 5 to 7 days with no electricity, how many people would survive?
Oh my goodness.
And with that thought, everything began to turn in the direction. Has anybody really done anything to really take care of that in a major way?
Yeah.
And you would think in the country that we're in and all the good things we have, that somebody would have that at the top of mind and something would be so, well, everybody has this. But I found out, Christine, it's not top of mind because they haven't had the issues, a lot of them. And if they do, it passes and they go on. But I got early in that thought process. Everybody needs something that makes it where they have pure water no matter what happens. No electricity, no water flowing through the faucet. So what can we do to help with that? And then I came up with 4 words. I don't want anybody to have to say, I wish I had.
Oh.
So so what we wanted to do is say, what can we do to make that possible?
Mm.
So as that came in place, I began to check and say, okay, what can we find? And I got to a certain point where I felt like I was finding what I needed and what would work for that situation.
Yes.
But as I began to compare what else is out there with water filtration, there's a lot of different ones, but none of them seem to fit all the three main things that everybody needs in what we just described as an emergency. And it doesn't hurt if they have it every day, even if they're not an emergency, to have pure water and not to have bottled water, not to have microplastics in your water, or to have the ecosystem full of plastic bottles. You can work with it with a daily use, but focused on the emergency. So somebody said, why don't you sit down and do a comparison chart of what this one does, that one does, yours does, etc. So I sat down and I began to work on that. And about 30 minutes in, I'll just use your name for an example. I said, why would I want to confuse Christine? Why don't I just tell her what this one does that the others don't do?
Exactly. Exactly.
So when that took place, I actually had found what we have, and that is a water filtration system that, first of all, has been manufactured. There's a manufacturer 40 plus years in business. There's over 1 million of these exact type filters that we have all across the world. There's over 28 million people that have pure water every single day, no matter no electricity or anything. So no matter whoever has it has the ability to have water every day. So number one, the filter is guaranteed by the manufacturer, 40 plus years in business, for life. And some say, how could that even be possible? Well, the reason is because the system is a gravity flow system, and the way it works, the water flows through the system, and whenever the gravity flow of the water slows down, then you know it's time to backwash the filter with the pure water it created, and then reverse the filter again and continue to create up to the 150 gallon of water every day, no matter how long you want to, even if it's your lifetime, or if you just want to use it for an emergency. So what that means is the third thing. So number one, lifetime guarantee from the manufacturer of a filter that you never have to buy another one. Number two, the reason because you can backwash it with the pure water it creates. Number three, a lot of gravity flow systems do not have much volume of water. So that was important too, especially in an emergency. And it will do up to 150 gallons of water per day,
Wow.
which means, right, which means that you could, with a half gallon of water for each person, that means that you could help up to 300 people in every single day.
Oh my goodness. So
And what's really interesting with that, Christine, the first person that purchased one of those filters, I was sitting in his home. And as I mentioned to him what I just said to you, he said, I live in a subdivision. In an emergency, I could take care of my whole subdivision.
yes. And that's exactly where my mind was going. Community, full communities covered.
Exactly. Right. And then this is a part of the story that it will take a little time to tell, that I think is probably, of everything I've already said, one of the most important parts of the story of the process and what happened and why it's so important. What happened at a certain point, I got to the point to where there wasn't a very large, I didn't have and don't have a lot of advertising money. So I would share it with people. Some would say I'm interested, and some would make a purchase for one, but a lot of them would say, well, it sounds like a good idea. And I thought, well, why don't you do something about it then? It was a good idea. But that was a challenge I was facing. And I decided I was going to talk to the manufacturer and see if since there's a million out there and other, a lot of people have purchased them, what is the reason? So I decided to do that. But right before I made that contact to ask that question to that founder of the company, I was sitting right where I'm sitting today, talking to you and sharing with everyone that we're having in our audience and will have in the future. And that's what's nice about what we're doing.
Yes.
As I sat here, I wasn't asleep. I wasn't on a mountain, but it was as if I was as high as could be on a very tall mountain, high mountain.
Wow.
And looking out as far as I could see were millions of people walking toward me, raising their hands and saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I sat there and meditated on that, like, God, what's this? And this is what came to me, Christine. That thing that you didn't know, but you knew something would happen when you were 16. This is the manifestation of that.
Wow.
And this is the mission that you have to do. And this is what will fulfill that thing that you had just as an idea as a 16-year-old. This is your mission. Millions of people will have their lives changed because of this pure water.
My goodness. And you really highlight the reason why you need to tune in and be aware of those impulses, because what happened to you, not once, twice, three times, you
Right.
received the message that is important, so important, and it's impacting people all around the world, Mark.
Exactly. And this is what the continuation of that is. And sometimes I found, and I think you would agree with this, and many would. Sometimes you have to work through the complexity to get to the simplicity of what you need to get done.
Interesting.
And that's part of what we just described. But there's another part that is just as important with related to that. What was unusual, and also sometimes what you think is just like, wow, this is wonderful. In fact, by the way, Christine, we have a podcast we call Wow, World of Water.
I love that's terrific. We will have to list that in the show notes for sure.
Yes, right. So after that thing that I just described with that vision, I was sitting here again and made the decision to call and had that conversation with the founder. And what he said was not something that thrilled me. But it did something that also triggered the next step. Put it that way. He said, "Well, in the U.S., it's not top of mind with a lot of people. So, sometimes, bottom line in short version, he said, 20 to 30 days after a major catastrophe is when the time people have it enough of top of mind to do something if you can touch them at that time. Well, my mission and my thought of my mission was going to be primarily to work in the United States to help everybody become aware of it and have all of those people that had the desire to be able to have the privilege of doing that. But then when I heard that, it's like you have to educate them first, and it may take a while.
Right.
When I got off of that call, I sat here at the same place and I said, God, I thought what you just shared with me recently, this is my vision, and it'll affect millions of lives. Did I miss what you were saying about my vision, or am I missing how to fulfill that mission? And it came to me. Remember, I said I had the nonprofit entity I formed in 2020, but I
Yes.
wasn't doing anything with it. A little bit right after I got it started with a few things to try to help people. But for all of those 3 or 4 years after that, about 3 years after that, I had been doing nothing with it. And here's what came to mind at this point. Christine, do people buy because of logic or because of emotion and justify it with their logic?
Yeah. Emotion and to protect their families. That's the first
Exactly.
pulse.
So here's what came to me with that. Here's a way to fulfill this mission that you're missing. And that what that was is everything I said to you. We have a for-profit entity, as you know, called Safer Cleaner Water, safercleanerwater.com. And that is where anyone can come and purchase one and have the privilege of having water that's pure, that takes out everything, the bacteria and everything that would make you sick, takes out 100% of the microplastics, and again, can work for life. So that's that. But if you were just thinking we're not trying just like here or any other time, trying to sell you something. We just told you the story of what it is, what it does, how it works, and why everybody needs it. That sounds like a sales pitch, kind of. It sounds like it's logical, but it doesn't have that emotion. So what happened is I asked that question, the answer came. It's what I just described. People buy with emotion. That's not coming through that way. The way to come through is if you can talk to anybody that cares about anybody else, that creates a trigger of emotion that will make the difference for them and for everything you're trying to accomplish and do. So the next thing, I'll just make this like 1, 2, 3, 4, not in length of time, but in the concept. The first thing I thought would be if I talk to you at that point, Christine, we have a nonprofit entity and it's designed to help those that normally you would think of that have the greatest need in a time of emergency. And that is the ones that are already being served by someone like homeless shelter, where they take care of their food, where they take care of their bedding, clothes, and different things, but I haven't found one yet that it has on top of his mind to have pure water for up to 300 of those they serve in a time of need. So my thought was, that's the thing I could share with you, and that is the way that we started the sharing of the process. But Christine, every nonprofit does exactly the way I'm describing it now. I ask you or anybody to give me some money to my nonprofit entity so I can do something to help somebody else. That's the flow, and that's great. But what if there was a way to make it more personal and more effective to those beside those that you don't have any relationship with? You do care about them, but what about this? Christine, we have the ability to have everybody that you care about, whether it's you, your friends, your family, your relatives, your church, your synagogue, your homeless shelter, anybody that you know that you care about and you would like to make sure they have pure water for life. You never have to worry about them being without it the rest of your life as well. All you have to do for every $100 you donate to our nonprofit, all you have to do is give the names or of the individuals or entities that you want one of the systems to go to. Give us their shipping address, and we take care of everything else for you.
Oh my goodness, it's turnkey.
By the way, you also, for those that, and however many that is, you receive the tax benefit of a tax write-off as well from a nonprofit, except for the one that you would buy for your own personal use. Okay. And those are shipped with the filter, with the 5-gallon container, with the adapter kit to the container, with the hose, with the filter, of course, itself, with the thing to backwash the system, and comes to you shipping included anywhere in the US. All you have to do within 15 minutes of unwrapping that system, you have pure water for you and up to 300 people the rest of your life.
Oh my goodness. Is there anything better, Mark?
To do the job the way it's done, there isn't anything that I've found that does those three things and makes it lifetime guarantee, never have to buy another filter, and up to 300 people served at the same time. So no, in that way, there's not. But then what I thought that was going to happen was, again, primarily United States, primarily those that just like you, possibly who you would share to here in the U.S. and etc. But what happened with that, and that is still again our focus in that way. But there came a point about it was like 2.5 months ago. I walked into the kitchen. It's taken, by the way, it's taking years, just not these 3 years, but all the years previous to that to get to this point, of course. But it began to, I began to see that this was a larger picture than the U.S., a worldwide picture. And I walked in the kitchen one Monday morning about 2.5 months ago, and I said, Vicki, this week is when things are going to start accelerating. We've done everything to get everything together for safer, cleaner water for the retail side and for UA Legacy Grants, UAGrant.com on the way to help people. This is the time it's going to start accelerating. And I haven't hardly had an hour since that there's not something happening that's bigger than what I am. But we can handle because we have everything set up to handle no matter how large the volume, including foreign, because we have the relationship with the manufacturer, because we're a nonprofit relationship. There's some things that they do for us that is not just made available otherwise. And what we have the ability to do now, whoever you want to serve, again, in the United States, I addressed that, shipping included, you can get one to them and they received it. The other is in the foreign markets, we have a relationship with the manufacturer, again, that's been in business 40 plus years, and we can literally have the ability to help anyone around the world that needs the pure water. We have a way for the donations that are made, and then we have the relationship with the manufacturer to ship it directly from the manufacturer directly to anywhere in the world.
Well,
So
yes.
Now we have a worldwide footprint, but there's another part to that that's happened also. The first of it started about 9 months ago. The rest of it's happened in the last 12 weeks. But the first thing happened about 10 months ago. Yeah, about 10 months ago, there's a friend of mine that told a person that had uh, made a commitment to walk across the continent of Africa to actually show them the need and try to get people to donate to help the people in those areas that they don't have any pure water, never have, and need it bad. So um, he found out. A friend of mine told him about what we're doing, and he found out about it and called me and we talked and what he was going to do besides walk across to show people where they could dig a well if they needed to dig water, it needed water. So and then otherwise walk across it for the making sure people are aware of it. But what happened? He decided what you have, Mark, is something that everybody needs, no matter what I'm doing. Because if I just have them dig a well, it doesn't mean the water's pure, and anybody outside of the three mile radius or so of that, they can't get to it anyway. Everybody needs what you have with the filter that you have. So with that process, and I'll just make this short, but with that process, what's happened with that? It ended up that he's taken some and began to get some real people that have needs in those foreign countries. And um, about just a few weeks ago, he called me and he said, "Mark, I realize what you're doing is greater and a larger impact than what I'm doing. I'm still going to do what I'm doing." But he said, "What I visualize and what I see is a helping set up 1,000 distribution centers across the continent of Africa,
Oh,
and us working together to raise funds to get filters for those 1,000 distribution centers where millions and millions of Africans and people across the continent can be taken care of."
my goodness.
Had a conversation with him again last week, the first of last week, and we were on a Zoom with me and him and one other person, and he started the conversation. And as he talked about, I reminded him again about our 1,000, that thought process. He said, "Yes, it's on both of our minds." But then he also said, "I feel like we can help as many as 1 million people to have pure water in 2026." He didn't hear me that when I said was probably on one of the things we were on uh, one time right previous to that, since after the first year, that I had made the same exact statement, that I feel like that we have the ability and we will be able to help 1 million people at least in 2026. And when he said that, I said that same thing, and it was just like the same exact mission that we recognize, and that's just one little teeny part of what can happen. In the last very few weeks, there have been 18 different entities or individuals that are serving people in other countries that have made contact with me, and only one of those 18 knew anything about this filter. And we're starting to get some to work toward creating the ability to help us raise the funds and get the mission out to as many as we can, where we literally can help millions of people have pure water for the rest of their life and fill my mission and help others at the same time.
Well, that is the most important mission that I can think of.
And what we're finding is our people coming to us and saying, I recognize what you're doing. I want to help. It hasn't manifested in large transactions of funding or connections, but there's so much activity that sometimes you get to the point where there's no question. It's there. It's just a matter of manifesting. And
And
we're ready.
this manifestation has escalated since I've known you so quickly. And it's
Right.
because of your persistence and walking through every door that opens to you and your belief that this is the correct path and listening to your intuition. It's quite
Right.
a story and quite a mission, Mark. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Hmm. How would you like to be remembered for your legacy in leadership?
Well, first of all, to get the understanding in people's mind, it's not about you, it's about others. The more you help others, the more you will have the knowledge of the next step to go to help more and have something that you need for you and your family as well. So to My legacy, we have a short version that on UA Legacy Grants, we say, leave a legacy, change your life. And what that means is millions of lives across the world have pure water that in any situation, even if there's never electricity, you have pure water for you, your family, and everyone you care about.
Beautifully said, Mark. True and
Thank you.
true servant leadership. And that's what our show is all about. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it, Christine.
Absolutely. Thank you for your service. Take care.
Okay. All right. See you.
I know you must feel as humbled as I do, hearing how Mark honors his intuition and follows the inspired actions as they come. This conversation reminds us that servant leadership often begins long before the work is visible. It begins in who we are, and how we listen, and how we choose to respond when we see the need in the world. Clean, safe water is something many of us rarely think about. Today, we've been invited to see it differently, as an act of care, dignity, and protection for families and communities across the globe. Mark's journey shows us that one person, listening closely to a calling, can create impact that reaches far beyond what they ever imagined. To learn more, support the mission, or bring safer, cleaner water to a community, please connect with Mark Miller by visiting safercleanerwater.com or uagrant.com. This is where you can learn how to align with Dr. H₂O's life-saving effort. Please review the show notes for all of the ways to connect with Mark, because sometimes making a difference begins with offering a glass of clean water. Thank you for your kind attention today. I am Christine George, founder of CG Excellence Training. We appreciate your kind ear in listening to the 4th episode of Excellence in Customer Engagement.